So I was sitting here for some reason thinking about the movie Mrs. Doubtfire. And I thought, good morning, boys and girls. So anyway, I'm glad you're on the call. And as I always say, if you have any questions about anything, please always call me. And Joe Bauer, congratulations on your first closing. I see your picture there. So anyway, today we're going to talk about the anti-fraud. So there it is. And so now it's mandatory. Every time you do a transaction, you must have this in your folder in order to get paid. So the big reason, we've always had it in our folder. Some people use it, some people don't. And so anyway, we have, I think most people know, we have a major big lawsuit here in my office for about $290,000 because the buyer wired the money to a fraudster. So he's out the money. So the buyer is suing Keller Williams, the agent, the buyer's agent, the listing agent, and the listing agent's company. And I will say this, I think that my agent here in the office, Jasmine, I think she really did an excellent job of keeping a record of every text, every email. And so that's definitely in her favor. I'm hoping she'll be found innocent. Nevertheless, this still costs a lot of money to defend ourselves. And right now, we're just, actually the company that's handling this, they're doing what they call the forensics on her email and her text messages. So anyway, so just to kind of go over the form itself, and the very best time to do this is when you meet with your buyer for the very first time and hopefully do a buyer consultation. I mean, it can be long and formal, or, you can make it what you want it to be. But it's always good to meet with the buyer and kind of set their expectations as to what's going to happen. So anti-fraud needs to be signed by them. And I'm not going to read through it, but as you see, electronic communications such as email, text messages, and social media. Hey, hi, guys are in here.
Hi. Sorry I'm late.
That's fine. These should be, very secure. And here in the office, we do have Google for our email system. And I don't know, KWRI and their tech team out there, they tell me that we're fairly safe. I will say this every day, I think these fraudsters come up with a new way to get other people's money. So you just can't be too careful. So in the big bold print where it says, you should never transmit non-public personal information such as credit or debit card numbers or bank account or routing numbers by email or other unsecured electronic communication. Email attempting to induce fraudulent wire transfers are common and may appear to come from a trusted source such as a title company, bank, or real estate professional. So back to the suit that we have here in the office. The buyer works for his parents' bank. He is an auditor. He's very smart and very educated. Nevertheless, and he was given instructions. He signed this anti-fraud advisory, and even several times in emails and or text messages, the agent reminded him about when he got the email instruction to immediately call the designated person at the title company. He did. He just wired the funds. So anyway, that money's long gone. As a side note, I was talking to a title company yesterday. And I have a closing next week. And I told her that my people didn't use a computer. And so what would be the best way to get that to them, although she gets her email on her phone? And then, so the title company person said to me, she goes, Joan, I can just wire it to you. And I go, no, 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 do not wire it to me. I never want to see that. And I think that's how you have to be. I'm sorry. I always tell Angela to schedule me for classes in the afternoon because in the morning I always have this sinus thing with allergies and it's hard to talk. So anyway, let's go on down to the next paragraph. If you receive an electronic communication directing you to transfer funds to provide non-public personal information, even if that electronic communication appears to be from Keller Williams and Consultants Realty, do not respond to it because we would not be sending them that information. To notify Keller Williams, you can call me if you think there's something wrong. And this form is for the buyer to sign. Acknowledgement. We have read the anti-fraud advisory and understand that Keller Williams Consultants Realty will never send me or us any electronic communication, dear Lord, with the information to transfer funds. And really, just really go over this with your buyers and make sure they really, really understand this and have them to sign it. And then as you go through, the loan process, et cetera, and they get, close to the closing, again, you want to go over this with your buyer and tell them that when you get the instructions from the title company, you go to the bank, and when you're there at the bank, you call a designated person at the title company. I recommend that you have that person in the phone. I'm talking to the buyer. Have that person in your phone and call them to make sure that those are instructions from the actual title company. And then have them, and of course have them sign this. And really, I think there's a couple times during the process that you just have to remind them, because like this buyer who works for an auditor in a bank, he even said in one of his emails, he goes, oh, trust me. He goes, I wouldn't do anything stupid. We have protocol set up for that, for wiring funds. So does anybody have like any questions? I don't see any, you guys are so smart. I love it. So. All right, so remember, when you do your buyer consultation, you want to do this form. Now, if this is a buyer you've been working with for a while and you haven't reviewed this with him, and you go out to show them a house, go over this with them and have them to sign it. Because I'll tell you, once that money is gone out of the country, we're not going to get it back to them. So let's go over to our whole harmless form. It seems like all we do anymore is just like try to keep ourselves out of trouble. Oh, right at the very top. So we recently made this one mandatory also. Hold harmless. And again, the way we write contracts right now, we'll have no appraisal or appraisal gap, or we take out the appraisal contingency. We do all of these things just trying to get our buyers to get the house. So let's go over this. You put in the address. And again, if you do, and I hope most of you do a buyer consultation, just tell them up front. This is a form that when we find you the right house or make an offer, we are going to have you to sign this. So you put in all the information at the top, and then these are the 4 things that we put in here. So if they eliminate the appraisal contingency clause, if they eliminate that, you want to check that box. I really advise that you check all 4 boxes, but anyway, check that. If you're going to proceed with the purchase contract without the buyer conducting a home inspection, check it. And then even sometimes the buyer actually will change his mind. He'll go, you know what, I know we wrote it up, but now I think I want to add that. So just sign it, have them to check it. Proceed with the purchase contract without the buyer having the right to request remedies with regard to the condition of the property. You know, maybe they really want the house and they check that box and they don't get a request a remedy. And a year from now or 2, or let's say 6 months from now, something they find out in regards to that home inspection, they didn't ask for it to be taken care of, and now it's $1,000 or $10,000 problem. And they're gonna call you, the agent, and say, well, why did we do that way? I don't understand. Now I gotta pay out all this money. So this is like protecting yourself upfront. Number 4, proceed with the purchase contract without a home warranty being provided by seller or obtained by the buyers. Again, you know, in today's contract world, we're not asking for home warranties. And again, you know, they move into the house and 6 months later, their furnace goes out. And, you know, it's gonna be, Emily, what's a new furnace cost?
Probably $3,000,
A what?
at least $3,000.
At least
minimum.
3,000, yeah, 3, 5, yeah, so it's gonna be a major big expense. So again, make sure that they understand when they do eliminate these things in their contract, that things can come up. So in the bold print, it says, buyer and seller agree to hold Keller Williams Consultants Realty and its agent harmless against any damage or expense, including attorney fees sustained as a result of the foregoing matters. So I think we just really, I mean, I will say this. If somebody doesn't have a home inspection or they have no remedies, I strongly advise that you have them to get a 1-year buyer home warranty. You know, that can help if they have problems. So again, you want to have your buyers to sign it, and then you all want to have the seller to sign it just to acknowledge this. And if you represent the seller, then have the seller sign it. Just have them to acknowledge that these things can happen if the buyer decides not to do these 4 items. Any questions on the whole harmless, Emily?
Okay, so I do have a question.
Uh-huh,
Where it says agent, I noticed that at the bottom, it says buyer and seller at the bottom. So when you put the agent, do you put both agents? Or is it just
No.
you?
just you,
Okay.
whichever party you're representing.
Okay.
Yeah, good
Because you're
point.
asking the seller to also sign it or acknowledge it. So that's why I said, well, maybe we should put both agents on there.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, I'm not gonna keep you real long today. I just wanted to go over these 2 things. Another thing I want to bring up about our purchase contract, and again, you know, I really recommend that everybody thoroughly understands that contract and that you thoroughly explain it to your buyer. What? Oh,
Sorry.
oh, I thought you had a question here. Okay, I'm sorry. Where was I? Oh, so anyway, in the purchase contract, and you know, in the purchase contract, it says you'll get the title commitment from the title company. I think it says 20 days before the closing or whatever. And so the title company will send it to you, the agent, and then you send it on to your buyer. And when you do that, don't just send it to him or her. Tell them to go through it, review that, and make sure that they're okay with everything that's in there. And again, we just had a situation where actually the buyer's agent forgot to send it to the buyer. Go to the closing, the buyer buys the house, and one of the first things the buyer wanted to do was to cut down some trees in the backyard because there was too much shade and he wanted more grass. Well, he found out in his deed restrictions that he's not permitted to cut those down. So when you get that title commitment, I personally, and I think you should too, go ahead and review it yourself. Send it to the buyer, tell them to review it. And if you catch something in there, like that, please, share it with your buyer. Your buyer might say based on that, because they don't want to buy the house if they can't cut down those trees. Does anybody have any questions today? And if you don't, I always say this all the time. I am always in the office. I am always available for questions or problems or, just whatever. Just, please give me a call. So anyway, no questions. Bye-bye. Go have a fun Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Okay, Joan, I do have a question off the
Yeah.
record.
Oh, good. Sure.
So,
Let me get out of
yeah,
here. Okay. Hi, Kurt. Well. Am I?
so I think they have to. close
Okay,
out.
we're done. Okay.
Okay, so here's my question.
Uh-huh.
I'm doing a lot of Op City stuff. So I deal with a lot of buyers.
I know you do.
Okay, I've never done a buyer consultation